10 years from now, you will have a financial life. The only question is whether you will be proud of the person who built it, or angry that you waited so long to start. Because there is one money decision that can quietly change the next decade of your life. And almost nobody makes it early enough. It isn't about finding the perfect investment. It isn't about making a six-figure salary. It isn't even about becoming obsessed with saving every dollar. The decision is much simpler. When your income increases, will your lifestyle consume it? Or will your future receive a share first? Because most people don't become financially trapped in one huge mistake. They get trapped through hundreds of tiny decisions that feel harmless. A slightly nicer car, a more expensive apartment, another subscription, another dinner, another upgrade. Nothing feels dangerous. Until 10 years pass. Imagine two people. Same age. Same salary. Same city. Same opportunities. At 25, nobody can tell them apart. They both receive a raise. But they make one different decision. That tiny difference begins creating two completely different futures. The first person thinks, I finally make more money. I can afford more. So the lifestyle expands. Better car. Bigger apartment. More expensive weekends. The paycheck gets bigger. But the breathing room stays exactly the same. The second person thinks differently. I make more money now. So I can finally make my future stronger. The lifestyle improves a little. But the gap between income and spending becomes larger. And that gap becomes something incredibly powerful. At first, nothing happens. That's what makes this decision so difficult. Month 1, almost nothing. Year 1, still nothing dramatic. The person who spent everything may even look richer. The person who kept more may look ordinary. But then time starts doing something neither person can see. The money being protected begins accumulating. The investments begin growing. The gap begins widening. And eventually, the person who looked less successful starts becoming financially stronger. This is the part about money nobody teaches you early enough. Wealth doesn't always look like wealth while it's being built. Sometimes wealth looks like the car you didn't buy, the apartment you didn't upgrade, the vacation you postponed, the money nobody knew you had. And that's uncomfortable, because humans are wired to notice visible rewards. People see the watch. They don't see the investment account. They see the car. They don't see the emergency fund. They see the house. They don't see the debt. Appearance is visible. Financial strength is often invisible. So if you want to make this decision correctly, stop asking, can I afford it? That question is too easy. Ask, if I buy this, what am I giving up? Because every dollar you spend today has another possible destination. And sometimes the real price isn't the money. It's the future that money could have built. $1,000 spent today is not just $1,000. It is also every future opportunity that $1,000 could have participated in. That's why financially intelligent people don't only think about price. They think about opportunity cost. They ask what their money could become if they didn't spend it. And this changes the way you see a raise. Most people see a raise as permission to consume. You can see it as permission to accelerate. Instead of letting the entire increase disappear into your lifestyle, you capture part of it before you get used to having it. Do that once, and it won't change your life. Do it for 10 years, and it can completely change the person you become financially. Because you're no longer simply earning money. You're creating a gap, and that gap is where your future wealth begins. But there is something even more important than how much money you save. It's what happens to your brain after you learn to live without spending everything you earn. Because once you stop needing every new dollar for your lifestyle, you gain something money can buy, but most people never actually purchase. And that is where the real transformation begins. The thing money can buy, but most people never truly purchase, is freedom. Not freedom to buy more things. Freedom to stop doing things you don't want to do. That's a completely different kind of wealth. Because the real value of money isn't what it lets you own. It's what it lets you refuse. Think about the person who has no savings. They may hate their job, but they can't leave. They may be trapped in a bad situation, but they can't move. An unexpected bill doesn't feel like an inconvenience. It feels like an emergency. Why? Because every decision is being made under financial pressure. Now imagine having enough money set aside that you don't need to panic immediately. Your car breaks. You handle it. Your job disappears. You have time. An opportunity appears. You can consider it. That is what financial security actually feels like. Nobody posts that feeling on social media. Nobody takes a picture of their emergency fund. Nobody shows off a month where they spent less than they earned. But there is something powerful about knowing. If something goes wrong, I don't immediately fall apart. That feeling is worth more than looking rich. And this is where your money decision becomes psychological. Every time you resist an unnecessary purchase, you're not simply keeping money. You're teaching your brain, I control my money. Not the advertisement, not the trend, not your friends, not the algorithm. You. That sounds small, but repeat it enough times, and your identity changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is always trying to get rich. You become someone who naturally makes financially intelligent decisions. An identity is powerful because people eventually behave consistently with who they believe they are. This is why willpower isn't the real solution. If every day you have to fight yourself not to spend, eventually you will lose. Instead, make your environment work for you. Move money away from your spending account. Automate your investments. Remove unnecessary temptations. Make the smart decision easier. Because imagine if every paycheck automatically divided itself. One part pays for life. One part protects you. One part buys your future. You don't wake up every month asking whether you should save. The decision has already been made. And that is how small financial choices become powerful. But there's another trap. As your investments grow, you may suddenly feel tempted to use them. You see money sitting there. You think, I could buy this. And this is where many people destroy years of progress for a few minutes of excitement. Because accumulated money creates a new kind of temptation. So give your money different identities. Money for today. Money for emergencies. Money for long-term investing. When everything sits in one pile, it becomes easy to spend. When every dollar has a job, spending becomes a decision instead of an impulse. And here's a rule that can change the way you see purchases. Don't ask whether you can afford the monthly payment. Ask whether you can afford the total cost. Because monthly payments make expensive things feel small. $100 here, $200 there. Suddenly your future income is already spent before you receive it. And that is how people spend future money. They borrow from tomorrow to make today look better. The problem is that tomorrow eventually arrives. And when it does, the money is already promised to someone else. That is why debt can feel like an invisible hand reaching into every future paycheck. You don't need to fear every form of debt. You need to understand what you're exchanging. If you're borrowing to build something productive, the calculation is different. But if you're borrowing simply to consume something that loses value, you're trading future freedom for present excitement. And that trade deserves to be questioned. Because the future version of you cannot negotiate with the decisions the current version of you already made. That person will receive your assets, but they'll also receive your debts, your habits, your commitments, your lifestyle. Everything you're building today eventually becomes their reality. So here's the question I want you to remember. If my income suddenly doubled tomorrow, would my financial life actually improve, or would my lifestyle simply become twice as expensive? Be honest. Because your answer tells you something important about your relationship with money. If every increase disappears, you don't have an income problem. You have a capture problem. You're earning more, but you're failing to capture the increase. And capturing your raises is one of the simplest ways to change your financial trajectory without making your current life miserable. Imagine doing that for 10 years. Not perfectly, not aggressively, just consistently. Every raise gives your future a little more. Every bonus gives your future a little more. Every increase in income becomes an opportunity to increase ownership. Eventually, the money you captured starts working without asking you for another hour. And then something changes. You stop looking at money only as something you earn. You start seeing it as something you can deploy. A tool. A worker. A seed. You send it somewhere useful. And give it time. But there's one final mistake that can destroy this entire strategy. It's not spending too much. It's not earning too little. It's not even starting late. It's something much more subtle. Believing that small amounts don't matter. Because that belief can keep someone waiting for years. And in part 3, that's exactly what we need to destroy. The most dangerous sentence in money isn't, I don't make enough. It's, I'll start when I have enough. Because enough keeps moving. First, you need $1,000. Then $5,000. Then $10,000. Then you decide you'll start when you earn more. And suddenly, years have disappeared. But here's what most people misunderstand. Your first investment isn't supposed to make you rich. Your first investment is supposed to make you an investor. Your first saved emergency fund isn't supposed to solve every problem. It's supposed to prove that you can protect money. You're building the person before you're building the wealth. That's why the amount matters less at the beginning than the behavior. A small amount invested consistently can teach you patience. A small emergency fund can teach you security. A small gap between income and spending can teach you control. And once those behaviors become normal, increasing the amount becomes much easier. Think about it. If you learn to live on $3,000 while earning $3,500, then your future gets easier when you earn $5,000. Because you already know how to create a gap. But if you earn $5,000 and immediately spend $5,000, a bigger paycheck hasn't made you richer. It has simply made your lifestyle more expensive. This is why your savings rate matters more than the image of your income. Someone earning $50,000 and keeping a meaningful portion can be building faster than someone earning $100,000 and spending nearly all of it. Income gets attention. The gap creates wealth. And now we come back to the decision. Every time your income increases, you have a choice. You can make your life more expensive, or you can make your future stronger. You can give every extra dollar to the present, or finally give your future a seat at the table. You don't need to choose only one forever. Enjoy your life. Buy things you genuinely value. Take the trip. Celebrate. But don't let temporary enjoyment automatically consume every permanent improvement in your income. Your future deserves some of the good news too, because 10 years from now, you won't remember most of the small purchases. You won't remember every restaurant, every random subscription, every impulse purchase, but you will remember the feeling of having choices, of not being trapped, of knowing you built something while everyone else was busy trying to look like they had already made it. And maybe that's the real definition of becoming wealthy. Not owning the most, not impressing the most people, not having the biggest number on a screen, but reaching a point where money stops making every decision for you, where you can finally ask, what do I actually want? Instead of, what can I afford? So make the decision today. Not because you're guaranteed to become rich. Not because every investment will work perfectly. Not because tomorrow will suddenly become easy. Make it because 10 years are going to pass anyway. And you deserve to meet that future version of yourself with something better than regret. Give your future a percentage of every raise. Protect the gap. Build the habit. Let time work. And one day, you may look back at this exact moment and realize you didn't get lucky. You simply started before it was too late.